So when an audience member shows up at your festival, now they're excited to be there because they're there probably for a very specific reason. They're there to hear a particular artist, or they're there to kind of experience the festival overall. So again, you want that audience member to have a positive experience from beginning to end. You want them to be treated with respect while they're going through security. You want the sight lines to be good. You want the sound coming off the stage to be fantastic. These are the things that are going to stick with the audience member beyond the artist that they've been able to see on stage. And at the end of the day, if they've had an incredible experience, they're going to want to come back the following year. And the more you can do that from year over year, have that consistency in the quality of the festival from top to bottom and in that audience experience, the less you have to worry about convincing an audience member to come back. It's going to be automatic. We had such an amazing time last year. The artists were great. The sound was great. They had great merch, great food. Of course I'm going to go back. Value for whatever my investment was, whether it's a free festival or I've had to pay for a ticket, in town, out of town. If I had a great experience, it's going to be worth my investment in time and energy and money. And that's vital to the long-term sustainability of the festival. If you have to spend a lot of time every year convincing people to show up and trying to use new marketing outlets every year to convince more people to show up at their festival and things like that, it takes away from the energy that you have to spend on what makes the thing special. So if you can build that audience loyalty, that would be fantastic. There are festivals that I can think of, the Newport Jazz Festival comes to mind, the Rochester Jazz Festival comes to mind. These are festivals that sell passes, and they sell passes before they even announce a lineup. And they sell a lot of passes before they even announce a single artist. And the reason they're able to do that is because the audience understands, regardless of who's on stage, they know it's going to be amazing. The venues are going to be comfortable and inviting and accessible. They know that they're going to have an incredible musical experience. They know they're going to have an incredible sort of overall holistic festival experience. So it almost doesn't matter who's on stage. That part will be taken care of, they know already. So they're just going to show up because they had such an amazing time the past 7 years that they've shown up. That sort of thing. If you can get to that point of building loyalty in your audience, you're in fantastic shape. So when I talk about accessible venues, there's a couple of things that come to mind. And again, things that you want to be thinking about. On a purely, logistical level, an accessible venue is easy to get to. So again, TD Toronto Jazz Festival, we're right in Yorkville. You literally come out of the subway station and you're right in front of one of our stages. You're a very short walk from almost everything, especially all the free activity. When we're talking about accessibility, there's actual accessibility in terms of people with disabilities, mental, physical, that side of things. You want to make sure that those audience members are taken care of as well. So can they get to the venue? Great. But once they're there, can they actually access the seats that they want to access? Are there physical impediments to their enjoyment of the experience? And some festivals go so far as to have, sign language interpreters on site, descriptive interpreters for people who have visual impairments. So you can take it to whatever level you want. Again, that's part of the overall thinking that you have to do about the festival.
I find that safety and community are one of the most important things in a festival. And I also consider the lack of safety to be a big part of the reason why so many of the larger festivals have not made it through to where we are now. There are many people who have experienced things on the spectrum of violence or harm at larger festivals, and it can be really hard to create a safe environment when there are so many people there. I also don't think that safety is something that any of us can ever 100% guarantee, but we can take steps to make sure that we've considered it as much as possible. And so I think that there are sort of different levels of safety as I see it. There's physical safety, there's also emotional safety and psychological safety, and all of those things are really important in a space. And there are lots of details that an organizer might want to consider in creating physical safety for someone who's coming to the event, but also to help them feel emotionally safe and comfortable and welcome. and psychologically safe if you consider what kind of experiences they might have had in the past that may have been difficult for them in music spaces. For example, one way that you can consider emotional safety is by providing training for your board, your staff, and your volunteers to learn about harm reduction and anti-oppression and safer space training. And there are lots of really wonderful organizations that offer these trainings. And that way you can signal to your audience that you might have something like safer space volunteers who are wearing a particular kind of shirt or something identifiable where people may be able to go up to them in the space and ask for help if they need support, or just have someone to talk to if there's something going on and they need a moment of connection. And you also have the option to talk to your venue about who they have for security and what kind of training those security people have, and see if you can work with the venue space a little bit in that way as well. Other things that you might want to consider are really nice non-alcoholic beverages for people who don't drink alcohol, physically accessible spaces where people can also sit down if they don't want to be standing for a whole event. Spaces that are set aside from the main music area a little bit in case people are just feeling maxed out or overwhelmed and they want to go somewhere else for a little bit. You can also ask the venue if they're open to having gender-neutral bathrooms, which can create a more welcoming environment for a lot of people, as well as talking to security about sensitivity around checking IDs for trans people, which is something that historically has caused a lot of harm in the past.